We are now ready to start our regular board meeting for Wednesday, October 9th, 2024. Could we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Lloyd.
Present.
Commissioner Winfrey.
Here.
Commissioner Ellenberg.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Avery.
Here.
Commissioner Shoemaker.
Present.
Commissioner Kuzno.
Here.
Commissioner Wayhill.
Here.
Commissioner Davis.
Thank you. I'd like to now offer a moment of silence for prayers and thoughts of your making, and also for prayers for our residents in the Florida state area. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I ask for another moment of silence? As many of you know, and as was mentioned in our committee meeting, the commissioner of the 3rd Ward of the City of Flint, Commissioner Quincy Murphy, passed away since our last full board meeting. He's been the tireless champion for the City of Flint, his district. More personally, he's one of the first people who reached out to me at 22 years old when I got involved in politics, and helped to support. And so many remarkable things have happened in the community because of his advocacy and his work. And so I'm sure he'll be remembered for that, but such a huge loss for the community. Just a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lloyd. Okay, next we'll move on to our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we'll have approval of our meeting minutes.
So moved. Support.
We'll have motion and support. Any questions or discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we offer opportunity for public comments. We ask for public comments for once, twice, okay. Please state your name and your city resident, please.
Dominic Clemens, Genesee County Clerk and Register of Deeds. I know you all don't need a reminder that we are 26 days from Election Day. And in Genesee County and throughout the state of Michigan, we now have 3 ways you can cast your ballots. In person on Election Day between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m., 9 days of early voting for the 9 consecutive days before the election, and of course mail-in ballots, which have already been sent out, and we are seeing a large number of mail-in ballots being requested. I just wanted to come up here today because I've left on each of your desks a couple of I voted stickers. Some of you may be aware that the state has done a contest for young people across the state of Michigan to submit designs for I voted stickers, and we now have those available, and they'll be available in each jurisdiction across the state of Michigan. We got several thousand here in Genesee County, but just wanted to give you all the opportunity to see some of these new designs that voters, both early voting in person or if they turn in their ballot at the clerk's office, will be able to receive one of these stickers. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, clerk? All right. Any other public comments? Once, twice. All right. Oh, sorry. Yes. Commissioner Wayhill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If we don't have any more public comments, I'd like to introduce my special guest for this evening, who is seated at the position of the 9th District Commissioner, who's absent tonight. His name is Anderson Robert Vaughn, and he is a 4th grader currently attending Central Elementary in Davison, so he's actually sitting in the right seat, but recently moved there from the 8th District. I'll say that I met Anderson at a recent event for Serenity House, where I was asked to speak as a keynoter. And if you don't know Serenity House, it's a recovery, nonprofit organization focused on helping the recovery community. And I gave some remarks, and Anderson came up and helped me with those. And so he's here tonight, very interested in science in particular, but also has an interest in government and the law, and hopes one day to combine those two avocations into a vocation, combining law and science. And I will add that, would you like to show them that? Just wave that around. He's prepared a binder. Open that up so they can see what's in the front of that. So look at that. He's more prepared than Commissioner Lloyd and me put together. Look how beautiful that is. So please welcome Anderson, if you would, to our Genesee County Commission meeting.
Welcome, Anderson. Thank you, Commissioner Wayhill, our special guest. Okay, next we move to our communication. Mr. Freeman.
Mr. Chair, there's 4 emergency purchases on the agenda tonight. A couple of them are dealing with some cleanup from the end of the last fiscal year, and then the one in particular at the bottom, 24015, is getting our architectural selves in order as we look to fix the facade of the jail. As you know, we've got bricks falling off the front of the jail. It's a health and safety issue, so we're trying to move that process along as quickly as we can.
All right,
No action required.
thank you. Okay. All right. Next, any questions or okay. Everyone good? Okay. Okay, next we'll move on to our Community and Economic Development. We have Dr. Beverly Brown, Chairperson, and Dale Wayhill as Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Resolution 2024-1131, approval of the proposed Genesee County Housing Initiative in the amount of $12.8 million to provide for new housing development financing and a countywide roof replacement program.
Support.
Okay, a motion and support. Any questions or discussions? Commissioner Lloyd.
No question, just a comment. This is also the piece that includes the piece about the jail, correct? No, okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Is there any report from the committee?
No report.
Okay, thank you. Next, we move on to the Finance Committee. We have Martin Cousineau as chairperson and Dr. Beverly Brown as vice chair.
Mr. Chair, being I was absent last week, I defer to Dr. Brown to communicate this section.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Brown?
Sure. I move Resolution 2024-1090, forwarding to receive and file a copy of the paid county bills for the weeks ending 8/11/24 through 9/8/24 in the amount of $26,734,353.60.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any questions or discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I move Resolution 2024-1124, approval of a purchase order to Staples for the fiscal year ending 2025 in an amount not to exceed $354,795 to provide for the annual purchase of office supplies. The cost of this purchase order will be paid from the accounts listed. Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any questions or discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I move Resolution 2024-1127, approval of a purchase order to Mailroom for the fiscal year ending 2025 in an amount not to exceed $252,115.50 to provide for mail services for all county departments. The cost of this purchase order will be paid from the accounts listed.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any questions or discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Move 2024-1130, approval of a proposed budget amendment to 2024-2025 appropriations resolution for various line items as described in the attached budget adjustment request.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Move Resolution 2024-1182, approval to provide notice of intent to issue bonds for capital improvements and giving notice of intent to reimburse project expenditures with bond proceeds.
Support.
Okay, it's moved and supported. Any questions or discussions?
I did.
Commissioner Lloyd.
In committee meeting, I asked a question through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Freeman about if we would need to take additional action on this bond for capital improvement. And he's already given me the response, but for the public knowledge, will you share the information?
Yeah, I did ask our CFO to reach out on that question just to verify I was incorrect. After the notice of intent, we do have to then come back and approve the bonds for one last time.
So just want to be clear that tonight is just approval of us issuing the notice of our intent, but then we'll come back to take formal action on this very, very important item in the near future. As we all know, as you mentioned, the county jail, you know, we may have folks there that are waiting their day in court. But just because we have folks that are there that have been accused at this point of committing a crime doesn't mean that we have to neglect the facility that they're in. It's very, very important that we have a facility, a jail that's humane, that is maintained, and I believe that this bond will go a long way in making sure that we make very needed repairs to make sure that that we have folks housed in a place that represents the dignity of this county. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lloyd.
Mr. Chair, I think that's a good point, and it's not even, while there are issues inside the jail that we're going to address, it's actually on the outside is where the major issue is, where the bricks are falling off the front of the building. So anybody walking by the building is in danger of
Only breaks.
falling bricks.
Yeah, and just one follow-up, kudos to my colleagues and the team and you, Josh, for even focusing on this item, because when residents come to any of the facilities that they own as a part of the county, the condition of those facilities is not just a reflection of our residents, but even more a reflection of us as leaders of Genesee County.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Lloyd. Commissioner Wayhill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Commissioner Lloyd's assessment of the jail in particular. He and I were there probably not this year, but maybe last or earlier this year, and Sheriff took us on a tour, and among other things that we were able to see, there are, I don't know what he called them, mezzanine levels, I think, within the jail that are not occupied by people, but there's storage and pipes and whatever else in there. And at least the one on the very highest mezzanine near the roof has water, standing water in there. So I'm not sure if that's connected necessarily to the facade and the bricks, but it's all certainly connected to the notion that we got to have a jail, and we got to have a jail that operates, and we got to make investments in it so that we can keep it up. And I did have a question. I know I saw some comments on Facebook from our vote last week in committee on this issue, and one of the concerns is this might raise taxes for the county residents, or put an additional burden on people's pocketbooks. I wonder, and I assume that's you, Mr. Freeman, if you could speak to that point and clarify how this is being financed and whether there are additional fees or taxes people would pay.
Yeah, and if Crystal can come up, just if I miss anything, she can fill in those blanks. But no, there are no additional taxes. There is no tax increase as a result of this. We've got an energy efficiency bond that's falling off in 2 years,
2026.
2026. So once these are issued, we're going to do interest-only payments at the beginning, and then the difference between what we're currently paying on that bond and what the cost of this bond is, we'll apply that to this bond. And I think the actual increase to the general fund, which we can cover within the general fund, is around $400,000 or $500,000 a year.
It's $515,000 at the highest interest and principal payment
Right.
is what will be added.
Okay. Thank you. I'll finish by saying that, as it indicates, this is part of the capital improvement plan that we adopted as a full commission. It wasn't unanimous, but close to unanimous. I don't want to say that it was if it wasn't, but that was our commitment to making sure that the infrastructure that we own in this county, the necessary, absolutely necessary infrastructure is maintained and its life is extended. Some of us took a lot of heat for the capital improvement plan, but I tend to think we're on the right road with that. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you, man. Commissioner Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got two questions. First, the bricks comment terrifies me. So do we have that section of building fenced off around that area? So people cannot walk, so we're
Yeah,
not...
we did have that fenced off. We came in and did some temporary repairs to fix that. Where the other areas are falling off is onto the kind of the lower roof on it. So we're constantly monitoring that, and if it becomes an issue, again, like the previous one was, then we'll address that to ensure nobody's getting a brick to the head.
That's my main concern, is when I heard that, I was like, hold on, something changed. The other thing I think residents need to know is there's no increase in tax or anything with this. Obviously, if tax revenues shifted like something we saw in 2008, 2009, this board would have to revisit everything we do as far as spending. But as far as this is put into our future spending plans, and we have the funds to fund it. So from there. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Is there any report from the committee?
No other report.
Okay, thank you. Next, we move on to Governmental Operations Committee, where we have Dale Wayhill as chairperson, DeRico Lloyd as vice chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Resolution 2024-1046, approval of a grant award from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services in the amount of $206,250 for the purpose of providing pre-petition and post-adjudication ancillary legal services in child protective proceedings. The budget for this grant is attached.
Support.
Move and support. Any questions or discussions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move Resolution 2024-1047, approval of a contract between Genesee County and Global Vision Technology for FamCare software maintenance and hosting for the period commencing October 1st, 2023 through September 30th, 2025 in the amount of $45,000 each fiscal year for a total of $90,000 to be paid from the account listed.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move Resolution -2024-1057, approval of an agreement between Genesee County and ESRI in an amount not to exceed $40,754 to provide for annual software maintenance. The cost of this agreement will be paid from accounts listed.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I move Resolution 2024-1058, approval of a grant award from the Michigan State Police in the amount of $1,095,166.80 to provide for investigating and prosecuting cases involving automobile theft and related offenses. There is a match requirement of $108,009. The budget for this grant is attached.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move Resolution 2024-1087, approval of a grant award from the Michigan State Police in the amount of $133,417.20 to provide for investigating and prosecuting cases involving automobile theft and related offenses. There is a match requirement of $88,944.80. The budget for this grant is attached.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move Resolution -2024-1104, approval of a grant award from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development in the amount of $15,000 to provide for supervised parenting time and exchanges. The budget for this grant is attached.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I move Resolution 2024-1126, approval of a purchase order to Warner Norcross and Judd LLP for the fiscal year ending 2025 in an amount not to exceed $78,000 to provide lobbying services at the state and federal level. The cost of this purchase order will be paid from the account listed.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions? Commissioner Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is, this seems larger than last time we approved this. I thought it was 65,000 was what it was last time.
Yeah, it was for less months because we approved it partway into the fiscal year.
Okay.
The cost is the same.
Commissioner
My
Shoemaker.
team's question, did we approach any other lobbying firms at all on this, or are we stuck with the same one?
This was bid out.
Okay.
The initial time was bid out, yes.
But the initial time, not this time?
Not this time.
Okay. Is there a reason we didn't bid it out this time?
We usually go a couple of years when we bid them out, and then
I-
yeah.
So, well, I'm not against the lobbying firm. I'm against not bidding things out every time we have a contract up, because I think it's, once again, as I will always say, it's not our dollar, it's not our money, it's theirs. And if it was my house and I was having a new roof on or siding or whatever, I'd have a bid every time I did it, or anything else like that. So not that I'm against the lobbies, I think we've done very well with that, but just to let my residents know, I'm voting no because we didn't send it out for bid.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Lloyd.
No, I appreciate the sentiment of my colleague. I will say that, and this wasn't what you're speaking to, but the lobbying firm that we use, that we contract with, is an awesome, awesome firm. I just wanted to say who's done a lot of lobbying work and helped to secure, a lot of resources for not just Genesee County, but other entities and agencies right here in Genesee County. So since we were talking about them, I just wanted to say that I'm very, very pleased with the work that they're doing.
Thank you. Commissioner Wayhill.
Mr. Chair, I affirm what Commissioner Lloyd said regarding Warner Norcross and Judd. For $78,000, we're getting millions of dollars in return. At least we have previously. 6 million plus, as I understand it. So I think it's a worthwhile investment.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right. I'm sorry, Commissioner
I concur
Kuzma.
with my two previous colleagues, Wayhill and Lloyd.
Okay. Commissioner Lloyd.
I wasn't going to say the name on the record, but I will. But, when we think about individuals who grow up in this community, are educated, who a lot of people come back, but even more leave the community never to return. And this firm, I think one of the partners is Burton Brown, who we know is a fierce advocate for Genesee County, City of Flint, surrounding areas. And so just wanted to salute him as well for the work he's doing and being back in our community.
Appreciate that. Anyone else? All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes.
I move Resolution 2024-1128, approval of a grant award from the United States Department of Health and Human Services in the amount of $2 million to provide for Genesee County's adult felony recovery and veterans treatment court programs. The term of this grant is from October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2029. The budget for this grant is attached.
Good, it's been moved and supported. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move Resolution 2024-1132, approval of a grant award from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services in the amount of $309,999 to provide for Genesee County's Stop Violence Against Women efforts for fiscal year ending 2025. There is a 25% match requirement for this grant.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move Resolution 2024-1133, approval of a grant award from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services in the amount of $334,125 to provide staffing for Genesee County's Elder Abuse Task Force. The budget for this grant is attached.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Any report from the committee?
I'm going to allow my colleague to issue our report. Are you ready for this, Anderson?
This government is operating very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Next, we'll have our Human Services Committee where Charles Winfrey is chairperson and Sean Shoemaker is vice chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move Resolution 2024-1125, approval of an increase in the agreement between Genesee County and VAAA in an amount not to exceed $81,000 to provide intake assessment and home-delivered meal assessments. The cost of this agreement will be paid from the following account.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move Resolution 2024-1134, approval of an agreement between Genesee County and the Michigan Department of Education to provide for the Emergency Food Assistance Program for the fiscal year ending 2025.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move Resolution 2024-1135, approval of a grant award from U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, allowing for a grant consolidation of early Head Start services expansion for 2024-2025.
Good. We have a move and support. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move Resolution 2024-1136, approval of an agreement between Genesee County and the Michigan Department of Education to to provide for the Commodity Supplemental Food Program for fiscal year ending 2025.
Support.
Okay, we have move and support. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move Resolution 2024-1156.
Move it.
Approval of an agreement between Genesee County and the Board of Trustees of Michigan State University to provide for MSU extension services in fiscal year ending 2025.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved, have support. Any questions?
I
Commissioner
have a
Lloyd.
question. I neglected to ask it in committee, and I don't think we had anybody speak to this. Maybe Josh, you can speak to this. What are the services?
I can't speak to all of them, but MSU Extension Office, they run our youth commission program. They do a lot around food access. Dom, I know you've been more deeply involved with them than I have on that 4-H program. It's all part of the millage that's approved. Nutrition.
Yeah, nutrition programs, Master Gardener, 4-H, they do a lot of education, well-being. They did a lot of education during the water crisis on healthy foods that mitigate that process. Their biggest portion is their youth development, 4-H, those sorts of things. And there is an extension program in every county ran by Michigan State University that provides those resources in agriculture and government assistance.
Thank you for the information. I look forward to supporting it.
Sounds like he attended Michigan State, huh? All right. You stroked him, yeah. Commissioner Kuzma.
Here, this is, goes back to the original land grant that Michigan State University received. And they started out mostly with just dealing with local agriculture, helping the farmers. I have a small orchard, I've called them to get answers on how to maintain, bug spray and all that kind of stuff. So, it's a very large and extensive program. And also as a homeowner, if you had, bugs in your shrubbery, you could call there and ask them, what would I spray on it to take care of that type. They're very involved with the community at all levels.
Thank you for the information. All right.
And
Commissioner
I'll
Ellenberg.
give you an example, too. Burnt Memorial Library had a lot of pines that were being destroyed by the moths, and they came out and inspected the trees and basically recommended that we cut them down, or it would have got rid of all of our pines that were on that whole side that weren't infected. So anytime that there's a resident that has a tree that might be, getting bugged or something that's killing it, you could call MSU, and they would come out and inspect it and give you like almost a diagnosis of what the problem is. So it is helpful.
Extension, yeah.
Yeah, through the extension.
Thank you all for the information.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Is there any report from the committee?
No report, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we move to Public Works Committee. We have Ellen Ellenberg as chairperson and Michelle Davis as vice chair.
I'd like to move Resolution 2024-923, approval of Genesee County Parks and Recreation Marketing Plan for the fiscal year 2025.
Support.
We have movement, support. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Move Resolution 2024-1084, approval of an annual purchase order to Berger Chevrolet for the purchase of vehicles for various departments for fiscal year ending 2025.
Support.
Okay, we have movement, support. Any questions? Commissioner Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have three parts to this, and I'm hoping it doesn't have to get past the first one, and then I'll have to continue to talk. One, this resolution violates board policy passed by this board. Policy states that vehicles shall be General Motors only and made in America. Chevy Equinox is not made in America. Their EV is not made in America. So my question to you as a board, do you want to stick to your own policies? It's one thing to vote on something that you didn't know the policy and mistakenly bypass it, but we know this is the policy. These vehicles are not made by American workers. We can substitute them if you want to stick with General Motors vehicles with other vehicles. Yes, they're a little pricier, but in the end, it's worth it to keep American jobs and keep Americans working. So we can either discuss if everyone would like what we should switch them out with for these Equinoxes, or we can send the policy back if you want to start including Canadian vehicles, but that's fine. But you got to understand, when there's a 3 in front of that VIN, that ain't made here, and that is not made in Canada,
The Equinox?
the Equinox, and any other vehicle. Ellen's been here when I've been over this before. I am a big believer in this. I'm not a fan of Canadian vehicles either, for the simple fact is, guess what? When our brothers and sisters in Florida are going to need resources and funds to bail them out and to help them through this crisis, it's American taxpayer dollars that will pay for that. It is your tax dollars that will pay for that. So I am 100% for purchasing vehicles as we need them, but we either need to revisit the policy, approve what is American-made on this right now, and we'll go back and revisit the Equinox portion from there. But I would like to know how this board proceeds before I continue with my line of questioning or statements, so.
Yeah, response. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with you, Commissioner Shoemaker, that we should stick with the policy. If we made a policy in the past of buying only made in America, vehicles. My question is, to what extent is the Equinox assembled in Canada? I don't have any, I guess what evidence do we have that the Equinox is assembled or made someplace else?
May I answer real quick?
Commissioner.
If you look at the VIN on the vehicle, is a 2 or a 3. 2's Canada, 3's Mexico. Ain't a single one on the front of the VIN that has a 1. If it has a 1 on the front of it, it's the United States of America. And we produce the best vehicles in the world. We just produced one right down here in the Buick City plant that year after year was voted the #1 vehicle in the world for quality and everything else like that. So, like I said, that's my reason behind it, but that's a simple way to tell if you ever want to walk up and look at it, look at that VIN that's on the front of the car, right on the driver's side of the windshield, it'll tell you.
So a one, I assume is America, and then 2 Canada and 3 Mexico.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Commissioner Lloyd.
So just to add on to the discussion, a 1, 4, or 5 is America. 2 is Canada, 3 is Mexico, and then if it's a letter, that's not made anywhere near us, right? So just more context, so the Equinox is built in basically 4 facilities. 2 facilities in Mexico, 1 in China. It's a joint venture, so it is a General Motors facility, but it's not an American facility. And at the UAW, we've been having extensive conversations even during negotiations about trying to get that work in America. And then in Canada, which I support the policy, but I don't have issue with purchasing vehicles from Canada only because we have members in Canada. We also have a sister union, the CAW, who also builds those vehicles. But I agree, if we have a policy, maybe I can make a substitute motion. I'll offer a substitute motion to pull out the Equinox from this package to move forward the rest of the purchases. And then we can have more conversation, maybe move the Equinox piece to committee. And then we can have discussion about either, the policy, which I support it the way it is, or trying to find an alternative vehicle.
I'll support that amendment.
Okay, so we have a motion of amendment and a support, and Commissioner Shoemaker.
May I add to it, just to be clarified so nothing slips through the crack? We will move forward with the purchase of anything American-made, anything that's not, we'll send back to committee.
I accept that as a friendly amendment to my motion.
Okay. We've heard the amendment. We have support to the amendment, to the amended.
Charles supported it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, Commissioner Wayhill.
I'll support this. I wonder if we could also get a copy of the policy. I don't have that in front of me, and not entirely sure where I would find it, given how we sort of collect our policies. So if we could get that, thank you.
All right. Okay. Any more questions or discussions on those?
Just additional, who else should we engage in the conversation? Maybe have them at committee so we can move this discussion along? The policy, I know where, I'll probably be with the policy. I appreciate you asking for it. But I don't know, do we need to have someone from the sheriff's office here to engage in that discussion as well? Because I'd be curious to know what other alternative vehicles that are out there that will be able to meet this need.
What's your thought on that? Should they be?
I mean, we can have
Since it
that
falls
discussion.
under
We
my
don't.
committee.
Yeah, on specifically the equinoxes, we can have that discussion. We don't need anybody else.
Okay.
Okay. Any other? Mr. Maker, you want to?
No, I was just going to say, I don't think the sheriff's department uses any equinoxes, so I don't think we need to.
Well, that's part of the reason why the equinoxes are here, actually, is because when that resolution was passed, they had Malibus from GM, and a lot of the detectives over there drive Impalas, and they don't make Impalas anymore, and they don't make Malibus anymore. So our list of vehicles from GM are limited. So that's why this is here, but ultimately that's a policy decision that can be made. I don't believe that holding the Equinox portion of it is going to cause any harm in anything that we're doing, so.
Commissioner Maker.
Mr. Chair, thank you. When they passed that resolution, I'm very familiar with it because we'd started out actually just looking at vehicles to save the county money at the time because vehicle costs were going through the roof. We'd approved 2 additional increases for fuel charges because fuel, after the last general election, had went through the roof. So we were looking for options from there. Before that, we weren't even buying American-made vehicles, and there was nothing in there for General Motors at that time. One of the statements I did make at that time, there's a nice video of it on YouTube if you want to watch that day, is the fact that General Motors is going to start limiting what it produces, so we might not always be able to get what we need from them, and that we would need to revisit this policy moving forward in the future. As manufacturing preferences change, and so on and so forth. So I would ask Commissioner Ellenberg with her committee if she would not just look at the Equinox piece, but also look at the policy. And I would be glad if she would like to, because I did sit on Public Works for 5 years. I'd be glad to sit on anything or help with anything from that point moving forward. So if she would be okay with looking into the policy also.
Yeah, and I can, Josh, you can get the policy to
Yeah,
the
it
other
was just a
commissioners.
resolution, so we can get that and we'll have that for the next board meeting.
And if we need to have a committee or sit down and talk, we can do that. We can pull up some information on other vehicles that are made in USA.
Anyone else? Okay, so we have 2 amendments, 1 amendment to the original resolution. We have a movement and a support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. That one passes. And then we have an amendment for the, the motion coming forward with American-made.
Mr. Chair, I'm just a little confused with exactly what I'm voting on. I meant to ask that before we took the last vote, but.
Yep.
Yeah,
So there was
I
a
missed the committee meeting, so I'm a little behind trying to
Gotcha.
catch up.
There's an amendment that you just voted on that will approve the purchase of the vehicles excluding anything not assembled in the United States. So basically on that list, it would be the police pursuit vehicle, the electric ones, and then the Equinoxes. So that motion is passed. Now you're going to vote on the original motion, which was approving this resolution as amended.
All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. Thank you.
I move Resolution 2024-1097, approval of a grant award from the Michigan State Police in the amount of $39,985 to provide for the purchase of a pontoon boat at Genesee County Parks and Recreation Commission.
Support.
All right, we have a motion, support. Any questions or discussions? Sorry. Commissioner Shoemaker?
I was just wondering what will it be used for?
Okay, we have Director
We're
Linehan.
taking out VIPs for the parks in it? What are we doing?
Director Linehan's coming for
So this is to replace the patrol pontoon boat that we have on Mott Lake. We also have to use it a couple times a year for rescues, usually kayakers, up along the river. But this is strictly law enforcement use.
Commissioner Maker.
What are we doing with the older pontoon?
So the older one, we are actually retrofitting for maintenance use. We're going to put a winch and a crane on it. Putting in buoys and that sort of thing has been very damaging to previous boats. So we're going to have that specifically for those reasons.
Thank you.
Good. Okay. Commissioner Ellenberg.
What's the size of the pontoon and the size of the motor?
So I could tell you it is a small one. It's a 16-foot. I'm not sure what size horse the motor is.
A 16-foot?
Yeah.
Did we go out for bid on this? Because it seems like a...
Yeah, no, this was, we went out for quotes on this with a timeline for it. It did not go out to a full bid, no.
This seems quite high for, and what kind is it?
Sun Tracker.
Okay, that's a really high price on that. I mean, I researched pontoons for a couple years before I bought mine, so I would like to see if they can go out for a bid on this.
Okay.
Substitute motion.
Especially this time of year, because you're getting bargains on them right now.
Okay.
So can I pull this, or can we just?
Table.
Then we
Yeah,
just
you can
vote it.
postpone it to committee.
So what I will say to this commissioner, this was a grant that we got from the state police that we had a month to turn it around. So at this point, we'll just turn the grant back in and go from there. So.
No,
Well, we don't want to do that.
hold on. You don't have to say it like that.
Just, hold on.
Let me go shopping.
Let me go Commissioner Shoemaker, and I go Commissioner Lloyd. Commissioner Shoemaker.
Well, see, this has happened to this board far too many times. Thank you, Mr. Chair, by the way, for letting me speak. I'm sorry. That something's brought to us last minute, and then we got to spend it. When did you know about this grant?
We were awarded the grant last month.
And they give you just a month to spend it?
Yes.
Okay, so it's got to be spent by what date?
Well, we had to approve it, and it was approved for this price. This is what was submitted for the grant.
If I may,
Commissioner.
Mr. Chair, is there a way for us to approve the funds and you go find a different pontoon that,
A better one.
well, yeah, that's, the theory is every 10 horsepower, you're $1,000 on the motor and so on and so forth. But for that pontoon, as someone who looks into pontoon, that's a lot. I don't want to turn down the money, but is there a way for us to work around this so we get the funds and still spend it by the end of the month? Which I would think we could if we just approved the funds, because we have one more meeting as a board. So if we spend it by the end of October, are we going to be okay?
I can have the chief check with the MSP, yes.
So let's, I don't want to just squash it because I don't like giving away free money. Not that it's free, but
Mr.
is
Chair,
there a way
if
to
we
round
need-
this, Josh?
Yeah, if we need to, we can call a special meeting for our next committee meeting next week, next Wednesday. I'll work with Patrick between now and then and just firm up what that timeline is. And if we need to do something special, we can do something special. But otherwise, I would just postpone it till next week. And if we need to come back and do something different, then we'll do that.
If I may also, are you looking at local dealers? Or is it just, was this like through the state, one of the state websites?
No, the Chief Dwyer at the time went out and went to multiple vendors.
Okay. I would talk to you about a couple I would recommend, but one, is there a reason we went with 16 foot? That's a very unstable size for a pontoon. That's what, just if you're using it for river rescue and all the other stuff, that's not a real.
So with the trailer and that for the price, that's what he felt comfortable with.
Okay, so you're getting a trailer too?
Yes.
Okay. Is it a single axle or tandem, do you know?
Tandem.
Okay, all right. If you would please just bring us back some other options, I'd be more than happy to go from there. Do we want to just vote this down now, or we want to table it?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I just wonder if the terms of the grant agreement specifies a certain date to spend the money, then it is what it is. I think, going back and forth, is fruitless. I think we have to abide by whatever the terms of the grant agreement says.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner
Just
Kuzma.
approve the grant today and still go out for bids and then officially next week spend the money?
Sure, we can, you mean just approve the grant
Just
itself and
approve
then do the
grant like
investigation?
We normally do, we approve it and then later on they go out and spend it.
Sorry, is that what the grant agreement, is that how it reads? How does it read specifically?
I'd have to go back and look at it. This is a federal appropriation through the MSP, so.
Can we just table this for a second?
Yeah,
go on the other ones and, confer, and then we'll come back to it.
Okay, and Commissioner Lloyd?
We'll table this number 3.
Okay, and Commissioner Lloyd, you have
Oh,
something
no,
before the?
I just was gonna say, I'm equal opportunity. And you kind of threw me with your response to my colleague here because, normally most of the stuff you bring, we pass and we kind of move pretty quick. And that's one of my kind of frustrations here because when there's a question asked, then there's, this tone. And so when you respond and say, well, I just let them know and I'll just send the money back, that's not fair if we're just trying to get to some resolve. So I just want to say, just have a little more patience, if you will.
Okay, Commissioner.
I'd like to move Resolution 2024-1101, approval of a grant award from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in the amount of $850,000 to support parks project in the city of Swartz Creek, Mundy Township, and Grand Blanc Township.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any questions or discussions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Move Resolution 2024-1108, approval of a grant award from the U.S. Department of Interior in the amount of $150,000 to provide for the Flint River Restoration Project. The budget is the grant attached.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Are any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Move Resolution 2024-1116, approval of a request by Genesee County Parks and Recreation Commission to amend the professional services contract with Wilkinson Solutions LLC to extend the contract for 1 additional year in the amount not to exceed $35,000.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Are there any questions or discussion? Commissioner Schumacher.
What is the reason we need to extend the contract? If we
I'm
want to
not
wait for
sure.
Josh to come back.
Yeah, I'll let him more accurate. I'll allow for him to come back before I answer. He's right outside.
Nope, not this one. With the Peyton Manning 3/4, oh, he's got a full zip on, never mind.
Mr. Freeman, we have a question of Resolution 1116 about why we would need to extend the contract for the approval of the Parks and Recs Commission armed.
That's a him question, but it's just to put more brine on the road, I believe is what this is for. Wilkinson Solutions is the dust control. Yes.
Did we send it out or we just extended it?
It was extended initially, it wasn't sent out for this.
Because I thought we extended it last year also.
Yeah, oftentimes when we go out to bid and we do a contract, there's, included in those contracts are options for an additional year or additional number of years, and that's what we're doing with this.
Commissioner.
Where is this company located at?
I do not know. If you give
Looks
me a
like they're in
second, I'll find
Lapeer,
out.
according to the website.
Commissioner.
Well, Lapeer Road, Mayville, Michigan.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Schumacher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My problem is some of these do have that language. I don't agree with it as it is. But 2, some of them don't. We just keep passing things along as we go. And it doesn't give opportunities for local leaders. There's other of us who would like to see more contracts handed out to my minority vendors. And by basically bogarting these contracts to the same people over and over again, we do not allow for opportunity for others to get in on these things. So I just get very frustrated when I see that because, you know, when I was at the township level, we had the same problem with waste management or clean services and so on. And when we started doing that, guess what? All of a sudden, prices started coming down. Our residents received more bang for their buck. You know, and so I would like always to see, it's a few extra steps, but guess what? Asking somebody to bid something out each year is a fair way for them to stay competitive, but it's also a fair way for us to allow others to participate. And, you know, this board used the word inclusivity with a lot of things, but evidently with contracts, that's not important as long as we got who we want to use. So I would like to see more things sent out. So if we do move forward with it, I'm a no on it, because like I said, I think these things should be sent out financially and be fair to other people who might be local.
Okay. Do you want to
Mr.
address?
Chair.
Yeah,
Okay, you will.
to the address, you are correct, they're out of Mayville. This was bid out in 2023. The initial term just ended September 30th, 24, so this will be for 1-year extension.
Okay. Commissioner Lloyd, then Commissioner, okay, Commissioner Kuzma.
And that, does this 1-year extension, that's in the contract for one time only?
No, that
Because it can be extended just automatically every year.
not every year in our contracts. I'm just pulling this contract back up, sorry. Closed it out. In this particular contract, there allows for up to 3 1-year extensions.
And this would be the first 1 year?
This is the first extension, yep. The original contract expired September 30th of 24, so just a few days ago.
Okay, because I can understand Mr. Shoemaker's view on it, not to perpetually, you know, but when you negotiate it into an existing contract, then, well, that's a contract. But, you know, either or, you know, one way or the other, I understand, but there has to be an end to it to open it up for everybody at some point in time. Otherwise, you just, how it works, like what Sean was explaining, the prices just keep going up and up and up. And you have to bring an end to it and put it out for fair bidding.
Right. Okay. Commissioner Lloyd?
You know, I generally handle extensions like if there's some project or something that's pressing that they're, you know, working to close out. Like, I don't know the full workings or, you know, happenings of what they're doing here, but is there something that's, maybe I missed it, that's pressing that they're trying to wrap up, close out, you know, that kind of thing? Because in that case, for me, an extension makes sense prior to going back out to bid, right? But if we don't have some extenuating, you know, can you speak to that?
Yeah, Patrick, this is on the Wilkinson piece. I don't think that there's anything extenuating. I think they're trying to get ahead for the next year. But it is just a dust control issue, right? A lot of our parks are dirt roads, especially I know out by me is Richfield County Park that gets pretty gross from Irish to kind of that main entrance. There's a mile of dirt road there, a mile and a half.
Yeah, so we have 46 miles of dirt road and parking lot throughout the park system that we take care of. And dust control is important. Pretty much any time we bring the grader in and rip that up, we want to lock it in so it's not.
Especially this season where it's been so dry, we haven't gotten the rain to help control that. My guess is that's why they're just trying to get ahead for the new fiscal year, because they didn't have any authority to spend after September 30th.
And I don't have an issue with it. I do have a follow-up question though. But if we know it's coming, you know, we know the lifetime of the contract, is there a reason we're not getting out ahead of it since it's so important? I mean, I have a couple dirt roads out in my Morris Township in my district, but is there a reason we're not putting it out for bid early enough so that?
Yeah, in this particular case, it's because the board approved a contract that allowed for 3 1-year extensions, so we wouldn't go out to bid for that because it's included in that contract that the board approved last year.
Commissioner Kuzma?
And this 35,000 is the same thing as what last year was?
Yes, yep,
Not an increase or anything?
no,
That's what the 1-year extensions is at the same terms?
yes. Yeah, they're holding the same price.
Any other questions or concerns? Commissioner Shoemaker? Comment.
If I may. Mr. Chair, thank you. You know, these 3 years extensions, if we just are going to continue, they're put in there so we can actually get out, because it's just an extension if we want to continue with. You know, obviously the board has its own policy. Mine is, like I said, I think by giving more people an opportunity, you can save the taxpayer money, and then on top of it also, allows more people to participate. And I'm pretty sure last year I voted no on this again because of the same type of policy. I didn't like those extensions in there, but I would like to see this brought to us, though, farther in advance than the contract ended. When did it end, Mr. Freeman? I'm sorry. I would like to see it brought to us soon. We know it's coming down the road, so if we did want to make a change, we can. You know, it's back to we've had several instances of this with municipalities across the street bringing us stuff late and everything else like that. This just feels like, to me, just to let you know, it should have been here earlier. It's already expired, and we should have already been voting on, because if we wanted to make take it a different direction, we could. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
And, Mr. Chairman, I agree with Commissioner Shoemaker. Rollovers and extensions tend to prohibit inclusivity, and we're trying to work toward a more inclusive procurement process. So I totally agree with Commissioner Shoemaker's sentiments.
Not to belabor the point, thank you, Mr. Chair, but hearing that the extensions were in the contract, in fairness to the staff, is in the contract. I totally agree with the sentiments expressed, but after my original comments, I want to circle back. It's in the contract. I wasn't aware of that, and so it's in there as an option.
Commissioner Maker.
Just for, Mr. Chair, please, for a point of understanding, so we didn't approve it before, we haven't approved it yet. One, so with us choosing to take a path of no action like we did over the last month since it's been, or how many days it's been since it expired, did the contract automatically renew? So it's just confusing to me that we've let it get to that point where it's already expired and it's a renewal.
I guess I don't follow or understand what your question is.
Well, one, I'm a little frustrated it didn't get brought to us sooner when we knew it was gonna, we have to pass it, okay, for it to continue forward. And it's brought to us late. I guess that's my whole point. And I was trying to understand if the fact is maybe the reason it came to us late is it really didn't matter because it would automatically renewed anyways, because it's in the agreement.
Well, on these contracts where there's an extension, I've taken the position that the board needs to vote on the extension as well, because I think it's important for the board to understand what they're spending dollars on, right? So this is above the purchasing policy limit that staff can approve at $30,000. So we bring these extensions to the board for this reason, to have this discussion. If you don't want to, I would not suggest that you not approve this because we need it for the remainder of this year. And we can work between now and over those winter months to come up with or to go back out to bid if that's what you would like us to do. We can do that. We can also work to update our purchasing policy that says we won't allow anything other than a one-year contract on purchases. We can do that. I think sometimes when these are bid out and Derek Jones is in the backyard purchasing administrator, we include in that bid that there would be that option to extend for a number of years. So that's kind of thought into that process, but we can change and do whatever you guys want us to do. We're happy to do.
Commissioner Maker.
I don't mind a multiple-year contract. That's not what I'm saying. It's the extensions that you keep adding on, that keep popping up, that we've got an agreement to have an extension with them. From there, that's the part I have the problem with. Because sometimes just a 1 year is not going to get you the best price, or there's different options from there. Or we need services for longer than 1 year, obviously for certain things. Or they have to buy equipment, as an example, like, Commissioner Kuzno sat on a township board, and when you renewed with your waste management service, they might provide containers, and they need a certain amount of time to recoup that. So I totally understand that portion of it. I would just, like I said, the extension piece, I don't think it's best for pricing. I don't think it's very inclusive to allow more opportunities. So.
Just so I understand, so if this contract would have just been a 3-year contract instead of a 1 year with 3 optional extensions, that would have been okay with the board, or no?
I think it would have been better, but.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Gunn.
You know, my understanding of what Mr. Shoemaker is part of what he's frustrated about, and I have been all along. These contracts come to us for approval after we're already into them. And my next question is, it's been 9 days since the last contract was up. Have they done any work?
No.
So if we were to vote no, and I don't know what my colleagues are gonna do, but if we were to vote no, then we wouldn't be in any legal lawsuit with them, because they didn't provide any service at this point in time on the new contract. But yeah, I have been very frustrated, as Mr. Shoemaker, you know, has said, is that throughout the years, and we've done better as a county, bringing these more timely, but it's very frustrating, and I don't know, personally, I feel it makes us look stupid, but be voting on contracts. And after they're already into effect for a period of time. We've seen some go on for months or a half a year. This is only 9 days, but still, it's the same principle, and I personally don't like it. I don't like being in that position that we've been put into by various people. It's not just this time, you know, I'm making a paintbrush statement at this point in time. But that I have constantly since 2016, you know, harped on that type of culture needs to stop in this county, period. Not today, 8 years ago, but it hasn't.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Guzon. Okay, Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So a couple of clarification questions. Is this extension subject to satisfactory performance? So, Patrick, can you give us an idea of the value piece of the performance of this contractor?
Yeah, so for probably the past 4 times we've went out to bid, Wilkinson or their previous company did get the low bid and has provided satisfactory service. You know, with a lot of these contracts where they have the ability to do those extensions, usually that first year we make a determination on whether we need to get out of that contract, which we have had to before, or whether we want to continue that on.
So you have this ongoing communication with the contractor to sort of evaluate their performance?
Sure. Yep.
And if I can ask another question to Mr. Jones, can you give us an idea of our typical practice with renewable contracts or contracts in general? To what extent are these posted? Like, we know this one is a 3-year extension option. So to what extent will we purposefully put open bid this time next year when we know there's only 1 more year left on it? So, I mean, give me an idea of the timing of when we put something out for bid.
Sure. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Commissioner Brown, I guess one of the things that I would like to state is that when we do a bid or proposal packet, the purpose is that we try to, you know, get the best pricing. And generally what we found is that if you go yearly, they're only going to provide you a yearly price. If you make it more attractive to the vendor by giving them letting them know that the contract is going to go beyond the first year, that's when they can start sharpening their pencils and make it worth our while in terms of bidding it. We pretty much set up these packets so that it is initially like a 3-year term with an option of 1 to 2 1-year extensions. And again, the purpose of that is to have the vendor to sharpen their pencils so that they can provide us, you know, they're leveraging their actual ability to see that they're having a longer contract. With this particular contract, we did ask for the pricing up front for these actual periods of time so that we are getting the same pricing as what the director has stated. And moving forward, and I do understand, I've heard what you said as it relates to the 1 year, but I just want to make sure that you understand that when you don't have that specific commitment, you are subject to getting higher pricing based on that. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, so if I understand you correctly, there was a price lock involved with this 3-year
Correct,
contract?
because they're submitting the pricing for those periods of time.
Okay, so there is benefit to the county for having a price lock, especially during times like this, when prices are escalating on just about everything.
Correct, because it's really timing, because an example is based on the fact that if we did it 3 years ago, we didn't have the inflation. And so we are locking in on a better price. If we go out to bid, of course, the vendor is going to include their specific, the inflation price so that we come back with a higher price. So we try to obtain pricing. Now, one of the things that we can do, if it's amenable to the commissioners, is that if we have a 3-year contract, that we vote for the full 3 years, pending adoption of the budgets for those 2 years in which we're not. And then that way it doesn't come back to you, and then just the extension will come back, which we mutually agree upon a specific price. I do believe in this particular case, though, we do have the pricing, and it's just a matter of the fact that the board has requested to see, as part of the budget process, to see these actual purchases that are over $30,000.
So just my final comment. So I heard 2 themes. I heard the theme of opening up the bid in a fair way to help improve inclusivity. The second theme I heard was a policy. Perhaps it's perceived as a policy flaw in terms of when we put something out for bid, but we have to take into consideration, and I assume that contracts have built into them certain standards for performance. Would that be an accurate statement?
Yes, that would be an accurate statement.
And so will this particular contract for Wilkinson Solutions be put out for bid this time next year?
If we're at the end of an extension, if this was the last extension, and that if the county comes together with the vendor, if there's an additional extension and mutually agree upon a price, then it can be submitted to the board for approval. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Commissioner Lloyd.
2 quick pieces. The first piece is, even with the performance piece, and I agree with the vein where you're going, I don't want the performance, wherever they fall in terms of performance, they're satisfactory, still to prevent us from, stop us from still putting things out for bid. Because we want them to perform well, because we gave them the contract. So once we come to the end of the contract, that's our obligation. They've given us their commitment because they perform well. So that's the first piece I want to say. The second piece is, in terms of locking in the extension price, is brilliant. We've worked together for a number of years. You're across the street as well. So I trust what you're doing. But the other piece is it also boxes the vendor in to a certain extent, because if we put it out for bid and not extend that contract again, they've already told us basically what they can do it for. Now, they still have the ability to increase the price like everybody else, but I'm sure they're gonna want to keep that contract and remain competitive at the same time. So I don't think, having the extensions in the contract or not, for me, is not the huge deal. We make the ultimate decision. We can address it by policy, but at the end of the day, I agree that we should, ultimately give folks an opportunity. So thanks for locking in the price, but I think we're good.
I just want to note that, our threshold is $30,000. So we have to make sure that we're congruent across the board, because if it was less than $30,000, we wouldn't have any idea about this extension of contract. So we have to have an understanding that, in all fairness, that's the way they operate. We have to make sure that we're congruent with that from top to bottom. Okay, I just wanted to add that note out there. Okay, any other questions?
Mr. Chair, can you remind us of what the motion is? Is it to approve this?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Ask for that clarity. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes.
Resolution 2024-1121, approval of a discharge of declaration of restrictive convent on vacant parcel.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any questions? Mr. Shoemaker?
Can I just have a little more explanation on this, please?
Sure.
Yep, some years ago, G-Card purchased some properties in the hopes that they were going to do some sort of a housing project on them. As part of, Ben kind of looked this up from Corp Counsel, so if I'm missing something, step in, please. As part of that, they had to put a restrictive covenant on the deed, saying that if that property, once the house was built, ever was sold or used for some other purpose, that money had to go back to HUD. Well, the project never happened, but the restrictive covenants were never taken off. So we have this vacant parcel over on Yale Avenue where the neighbor wants to purchase it, but it has this restrictive covenant. So this is removing that so that we can sell that property to them
Thank you.
or someone else. Did I miss anything?
No, you got it.
Thank you.
Great job.
Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Is there any report from the committee?
Number 3 we
Oh.
need to go back to?
Oh, yes, number 3. Oh, can't forget about number 3.
Okay.
Okay.
And we'll go back to Resolution 2024-1097. Want me to read it again? Okay.
Okay,
So it's been moved and previously supported?
yes.
Okay. In conversation with our CFO and with Patrick, where did Patrick
Yeah,
go?
right.
Is he here?
Yeah, Patrick, Mr. Linehan, Director.
Oh, yep, I see you. Okay, you're just behind somebody. This will accept the grant, and then we will make sure that we go through some sort of a formal process to actually purchase the boat. So we're accepting the grant of $39,985 and for the purpose of purchasing a boat, and we will go through the process that you've requested tonight to ensure that we're getting the best price on that.
Commissioner Lloyd.
So what did the language say? Did it say 30 days? Or did you all go back and look at it and it doesn't say that?
Yeah, we went back and looked at it. It does give you a certain time period. Let me just find, in year 1, we have to go through and purchase the property within that first year. I think what Patrick was talking about is sometimes when these grants come in from, and this one was Michigan State Police, they're very demanding in getting things done like immediately. But that's not what the actual grant language says here. So I think that we'll be okay in accepting it. We're going to move expeditiously to get the pricing, the appropriate pricing on a boat, and get an appropriate boat for what we're trying to do, and make sure that we're meeting the desires of the board. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. I'm gonna let it go.
Commissioner Guzman.
Quick question, being this is parks, and you have your own board, Patrick, wherever you're at, but at any rate, does this have to go through the parks first, once you buy it, get the bidding, and then come to us? Is there enough time? That's all I'm asking.
I think time-wise we'll be fine. Yes? Yep. He says we'll be fine on the Parks Board. I mean, ultimately, it's the Board of Commissioners' decision on that, so.
I understand that, yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Shoemaker, and then I'll come back to Commissioner Wayhill.
I just didn't fully understand that. So we have until the end of the year, for a year to purchase it and to approve the grant, or?
Yeah. So we're in approving the grant in year 1, and I'm just reading it, the contractor must sign and return the contract before purchases are made. So we'll accept the grant tonight, we'll go through and sign that, send it back to them, and then we'll be able to have a performance period where we purchase the stuff. So I think that we'll be fine.
Thank you. Thank you for working on that.
Okay, Commissioner Wayhill.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Patrick, I wonder if you might approach again, not to belabor the pontoon purchase, but here we are. The grant award, so we applied for the grant. How did we determine the amount to ask for?
So the chief at the time went out to local vendors and got pricing, and he got, I think, like four different
Okay,
prices.
so getting quotes
Yep.
by talking to people who sell pontoons. Did I hear you say that there was a trailer that's also part of it?
Correct. I don't know much about pontoons or trailers, but it's not the long skinny type. It's actually one with the bunks on it that you can put it on. It's a different type of trailer,
Okay.
not the ones that they use.
So when we say it's a pontoon, it's really a pontoon and the trailer?
Yeah.
Okay, and so the 39 and change is based on the estimates? Was it 39?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Almost $40,000. So that was the amount put in the grant that you submitted. They approved the grant for that budget. And what we're doing tonight is voting to accept the grant in that amount.
Yes.
So we're going to look for a cheaper pontoon and trailer, right? Okay, and if it comes in at 30, we've got $9,985 left. You would then go back to the grant maker and say, this is what's going on. Can we allocate that leftover money for another purpose within the grant? Or
We could, but the grant was.
maybe we could
specifically
hire a captain for the pontoon, like hourly rate. But I mean, that's usually kind of how, I do a lot with grants at Mock College and have done it over the years for nonprofits, but typically you can go back to the funder and say, this is the situation, and if you have money, or you have to give it back. So it's one or the other. Fair?
Fair, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to clarify, my goal is possibly not to spend less money on the pontoon, but to get more pontoon for the money. And I think, I can speak for Commissioner Ellenberg, I think that's where she is with me also, is I'm not saying spend less than it, I'm saying there's different types of constructions on pontoons. You've got aluminum deck, you've got wooden deck. There's certain things you want for each one. If you're loading things on and off, there's certain things you want for this, and I'm sure that they're working on that. But a 16-foot pontoon, number one, if you've ever been on a pontoon before, a 16-foot pontoon is not stable. You are not going to be loading things in and out of this, and it really worked well. Plus, the size of the tunes on a 16-foot pontoon, you get enough weight on that thing, the front of it's going into the water or the back. So I'm just, like I said, I'm not stating go cheaper. That's not my intent. My intent is to get better. Because our people, our employees, and our citizens are going to be on this pontoon. And it needs to be the best pontoon possible. And I just think for that dollar amount, that pontoon is not the right pontoon for this county. So that's just to clarify, Mr. Wayhill, that's right. I don't want to spend less. I want to get the right one.
Understand.
Okay. So the motion still is to accept the grant, and then there'll be more exploratory efforts for the best bang for the buck. All right. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Is there any report from the committee?
No. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, next we have unfinished business. See, there's none, so next we'll move to new and miscellaneous business for, McMillan. Yeah, full council.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Under the Open Meetings Act, this body is allowed to go into closed session to meet for strategy and negotiation sessions connected with the negotiation of a collective bargaining agreement if either a party requests a closed hearing, and it's my understanding this board wants to go into closed session to discuss strategy regarding one of the unions, maybe two. And so you'll need to take a roll call vote, and you need 5 votes. So I'd ask somebody to make a motion.
Will we enter an executive session?
Support.
Okay, moving support. Any questions or concerns? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Lloyd?
Yes.
Commissioner Winfrey?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellenberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Avery?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoemaker?
Yes.
Commissioner Kuzno?
Yes.
Commissioner Wayhill?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, we're back to order for adjournment. Motion?
Support, support.
Okay, the move support. Any questions or concerns? All those in favor? Aye. All right, motion passes. Meeting is adjourned.